Our political editor, Gary Gibbon, is in Westminster. Gary.
Well, on the specific problem of truck drivers being able to get into France, the government really does feel that an easing of that problem, if not a complete solution, is on the way, is imminent. What President Macron wants is testing, COVID testing of those drivers before they go into France. So you just need to use the word testing and know this is not going to be entirely straightforward, and think of all the truckers queued up there or in various car parks around Kent. It's not going to be entirely straightforward, but that they think will actually dissipate. Government confident of that. But what you heard in the Prime Minister's press conference this afternoon was what's driving that, the new mutation of COVID. That is obviously causing serious concerns inside government. All the talk when the latest tiers were announced, that you could go down a tier, don't worry, you won't be where you are forever. All the talk in that press conference made it sound like there really is probably only one way, one direction after the Christmas break, and that's up, a ratcheting up. Of course, we still have Brexit talks, a free trade agreement going on. Rarely has a government had so much on its plate.
The government was braced for passengers to be blocked from France, but not freight. Hundreds of trucks were stranded on either side of the channel. Visible chaos spawned from the invisible virus and its new variant. Much of the EU has or will put up restrictions on travel from the UK because of the mutation of the COVID virus. Other countries around the world have been following suit. Scientists advising the government are investigating whether the new variant of COVID may infect children more than the original version of the virus. At his press conference this evening, the Prime Minister was already sounding cautious about his promise to keep schools open.
Given what we're hearing about the variant, can you really guarantee that schools will be back on the start dates they now have?
We want, if we possibly can, to get schools back in a staggered way at the beginning of January in the way that we have set out. But obviously, we, like all, as you expect, the commonsensical thing to do is to follow the path of the epidemic, and as we showed last Saturday, to keep things under constant review.
Only last week, the government was threatening to take schools to court if they closed a few days earlier. Today, a very different tone. And less than a week since the new tier structure came in, with promises that regions might well slide down to easier tiers, the chief scientific advisor sounded a different note.
If this mutant version of the virus, this variant, is galloping through the population, can you be quite sure that we won't, almost all of us, be in tier 4 or even tier 4+ soon after this break?
It is more transmissible. It does require more action in order to keep it down, and that's why tier 4 is important. And what we did see was that in areas that had lower restrictions, you could still see growth in some places.
St Pancras Station on Saturday as travellers raced back to families around the country. Sir Patrick Vallance said the new COVID variant was already dispersed. But hoping to reduce the spread, Manchester and West Midlands public health directors said anyone who travelled from a tier 4 area should self-isolate for 10 days. Thanks to the new variant of the virus, the government's map of infection rates has now had to introduce a new colour, dark purple, to show where more than 800 people per 100,000 are infected, with concentrations in South Wales, Essex and Kent. The Prime Minister had hoped to be announcing an agreement with President Macron that would ease the lorry queues in Kent. It wasn't quite ready, but earlier President Macron spoke to his ministers from his COVID isolation and said he wanted truck drivers to have a 24-hour swab test before they were let into France from Britain.
The UK government would have to put something in place to be able to do those PCR swab tests, either on the motorway in Kent, or they would have to take them to Manston Airfield and effectively carry something out there. That's impractical to do that within the hours the hours and days that are left between now and Christmas.
The government emphasised the majority of imports at Dover come in containers, not trucks, and weren't affected by the closing of the French border. But the imagery was grim, the manifestation of a new, faster spreading COVID in our midst.
Well, as